Hello again. Today we're going to talk about making your prose come alive with the Immersive Sensory Writing Method in NLP. Have you ever read a book where you felt like you were inside the world of the story, where you could practically smell the rain, taste the coffee, and feel the chill of the wind on your skin? This is what great fiction does. It doesn't just tell you what's happening, it makes you experience it. It engages the five senses so vividly that the words seem to dissolve and all that's left is pure immersion. Consider the opening of Perfume by Patrick Suskind, where scent itself becomes the defining force of the narrative. In 18th century France, there lived a man who was one of the most gifted and abominable personages in an era that knew no lack of gifted and abominable personages. His name was Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, and if his name has been forgotten today, it is certainly not because Grenouille fell short where talent and diligence were concerned, but because his gift was genius, and his domain was that most fleeting and ephemeral of the senses, scent. From the very first paragraph, Suskind plunges us into a sensory world, where smell is so important that it dictates the fate of the protagonist. Similarly, in The Road by Cormac McCarthy, sensory immersion creates an atmosphere of raw survival. Nights dark beyond darkness, and the days more grey each one than what had gone before, like the onset of some cold glaucoma dimming away the world. The reader doesn't just see the bleakness of this post-apocalyptic world, they feel it in every description. But many writers struggle with bringing scenes to life. Some describe only what the character sees, making their writing feel flat and detached. Others overuse sensory details, overwhelming the reader with too much description that slows down the story. The key is balance, knowing when to use sensory details and how to weave them into the narrative seamlessly. The Immersive Sensory Writing Method is an NLP-based approach that trains your brain to instinctively create rich sensory-driven prose, making your writing feel more alive, textured, and immersive. The NLP principle used is sensory acuity and submodalities. NLP identifies 5 primary sensory channels: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Great writing engages multiple senses, not just sight. By activating sensory memory, a writer's brain retrieves natural, immersive descriptions effortlessly. NLP's submodalities help enhance details, for example, making a sound distant or a color more vivid. So how do you use the Immersive Sensory Writing Method? First, engage in the sensory scan exercise. Close your eyes and imagine your scene. What's the first non-visual sense that stands out? Sound, smell, temperature? Start there. For example, the ocean's wind doesn't just blow. It stings the skin like salt-worn sand. 2. Use the selective detail approach. Instead of listing every sensory detail, choose one powerful detail per sense that evokes the strongest emotional reaction. Example, instead of saying, "She smelled flowers," say, "The scent of jasmine curled into her lungs, thick and sweet as honey." 3. Anchor emotion to sensory experience. Connect sensory descriptions to a character's mood. For example, in The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, the protagonist's grief is mirrored in the dust-filled silent museum after an explosion, a tactile and auditory void representing shock. 4. Engage the sensory swap technique. Instead of saying, "The air smelled like roses," describe it using another sense. The air was soft, like crushed petals against the skin. Fifth, write a scene using only one sense. As an exercise, rewrite a short passage using only sound, touch, or smell, then blend it back with other senses. For example, in The Silence of the Lambs, Thomas Harris creates tension by describing the stillness of the room before Clarence even sees anything unusual. So, all the best for your exercise. And look forward to the next episode, episode 5, which deals with saying more with less and uses the NLP technique of subtext and layered conflict.